All right, folks, I think that we're just about good to go. Welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of Traders Talk, our weekly Q&A workshop. Right as this stock is taken off here, AISP making a big pop just now. We'll talk about this trade among many others in just a bit. Great to have all of our students and members alike. Let me get the webcam popping up for you right now in our trading room. Great to see Alex here. You got Grant. Webcam should be coming up in just a second at least, but Margaret, Jeff, all of our students at least inside our live trading room. Great to have you here. Great to have us back on social media, at least at Cyber Trading U. Might have a new view, a new layout on our social media handles here for our workshops. We have a lot more to look forward to in that regard. Fausto's webinars, our streams, this workshop. So hopefully you like it. Great to have Brad, Kathleen with us right now. Let me ask, is anyone in on this trade right now, the AISP trade here? Because obviously we got to start off with this, with it popping as we start this workshop. Lawrence, are you in right now? Brad, you're in right now? A few of us at least, right? So we got to move quick. The stock obviously is running and we're in it. I'm in it right now. I just got off a coaching call with one of our students, Daniel, where we ended up jumping into this trade pretty much as we had finished up. We were waiting for this to make the move we wanted it to make earlier. Oh my God, I might just get out here just to take the freaking money. I'm out. I'm getting out. I just took the money and ran. I got out, I think, at 25. This might even get halted coming up here. 35 I got filled at. Yep, here comes a halt. There we go. Ooh, not yet. It looked like it was about to. Well, I'm happy. I just took my money and I ran. I got out at 535. I did it because for any stock that pops too much, too fast, you know it's going to come back down eventually. Obviously, you hope for it to keep going up and up and up, even get a halt in there like we thought we would just see. But if you're up an amount that you're not normally up on each trade or per trade, it's probably more advisable to just scale out, take a little money and run. And then otherwise, it's tough to teach and trade at the same damn time, right? So for students like, Brian or Brad, Leda, Andrea, Lawrence, I wonder how you folks are doing right now on this trade. If you're in from like 460-ish, where I took it just earlier with Daniel, hey, just maybe move your stop up. If you want to take the money and run with me right now, it's not a bad idea. We have so many trades to go through coming up in just a bit, and email questions that were sent in from students. So I'm getting out for that reason, if anything. Brad's still in from 425, sweet entry from him. Barbara just got out at 536. Now, really quick, if you're on social media right now, on the lower right, it's not popping up today. Probably have it just next week. It took a little while to get set up here. So actually for our students right now, I'm going to show a little chat going on inside our room. And, if you're on social media, we encourage for you to join us here each and every morning and day. So like Brad's still in from 425. Barbara took her money and ran. Lawrence was just in it before. Lee. So there we go. It was a pretty good trade here. Now we have the chance to take a step back and breathe, right? Be like, why did the stock make the move that it just made? And when were we first calling it out? Well, this was not the first call out on this trade here, folks. Of course, we were following the stock going into the market open. Fausto had this on our morning watch list, that was. So by 9 a.m. Eastern at the least, we were focused on it. We had some pre-market banter. I think I called it out at first saying AISP at a pop. And we post the news, we post the heat map for it. That doesn't guarantee for a stock to run though. It just shows like, all right, we were on the ball pretty early with this trade, right? So AISP pop at 8:37 in the morning. Rich, my colleague here, posting the news. So Airship AI awarded a 6-figure sole source contract. You'd like to know the money involved, how much money with the DOJ, because if it's a smaller contract, probably won't make as big of a move. Well, up 63% had to have been worth something, right? That doesn't guarantee for this to run though. It was looking good going into the market open. We had it on our morning watch list for that reason. Fausto had called it out shortly after the first 5 minutes, led to a good pop. But I had jumped into this just a little while back. So let's actually rewind this. I'll give you the full spectrum of this move before I just took it and then afterwards what just happened. So really quick for Kathleen, Brad, all of our students here in chat, where are we more likely to follow the icebergs? What common set of price levels are we more inclined to follow the big iceberg orders at? What do we got? Andrea just took some money right now, 484 to 530 he got out at. Sweet exit from him. 50-cent levels and whole numbers, right? All of us in chat right now saying that. So before we even get to, what just happened here, let's plot a few levels out there. For instance, 350, just simply put, loosely speaking at least, it was holding right over 350 going into the market open. After that, 450, 5, etc. All right, so after the market opened up, it's easy to say in hindsight, but hey, this had a nice pop. It took a shake or two, but it made a nice break over this level. It actually popped up pretty well, like 20 cents off that level. Even if it was a larger break, that much better. But that's a decent break over. It's not just a tiny little nip. It's not like a little pop and drop and that's it. It broke over the level. So once again, for Grant, Michael, Margaret, Samuel, all of our students in chat, when a stock breaks over resistance and it makes a move, it actually breaks over, not a little nip, like it's actual a break. Resistance initially becomes what? Right? Support. Exactly. So easy to say in hindsight that, over time it shook under and back over. Technically, I call this holding over 4 because it crashes into the level and then it moves back through the level on the way back up. And that actually could have generated a decent entry there. Now, hey, that's a Captain Hindsight comment. I like to say Captain Hindsight, right? Like, of course, you know what happened there. It already happened. It's already, a painted picture. It's easy to say what happened after the fact. Well, it goes to show you can't catch a falling knife because, if you just tried buying as it was at the level, there was still some slippage. You literally want to see it break into the level because if it just breaks under and stays under, there's no play, there's no move. You just move on to another stock. Actually, just earlier here, stock CLSK, pretty good example of that at 15 bucks this morning. Went right down to the level, cut through it like a knife through hot butter. So, continued to drop. You don't want the same thing to happen here on AISP. Obviously, it made that nice push, but you look for it to go under and over. Right here, it breaks under. It does hit the VWAP. It makes an even better bounce, you could say, off the VWAP price right here, the smoother white line. But outside of even just saying that, it comes back over 4, holds a higher low, so that's good, and it gives you that move that you wanted. So that AISP started to make its better move off the 4 level, but just a moment ago, though, again, focusing on our 50-cent levels and our whole number levels, well, 450 here is next. That's the price that I was focused on with Daniel just before. As a 50-cent level, that's really one of the first things that I look at here. It's just 50-cent level. It broke above it as resistance. And this is a pretty unexpected break of resistance here. I told Daniel on our call, I expected more of a fight. I expected more of a, test of resistance here. Actually, for all of our students that we, train and coach one-on-one and in group, Charles, Margaret, Brad, Barbara, Grant, Sam, all of our students here, it's the amount of times the stock tests a level in a smaller concentration, smaller time frame. So it touched 450 once here. The next time it tested it was like 30, 40 minutes later. That's a lot of time in between level tests. I was not expecting such an easy pop. Well, it made a pretty easy pop. So you know what I did? I flipped my mindset around and I answered the question that everyone just answered for me. For Leda, Charles, Margaret, Grant, Sam, Barbara, hey, resistance should become support. Now, 450 level, you also had this as your high of the day. Like that was, nice little chart top here, basically. It had a good rejection. So I'm using the combination of 450 and 458 basically as my support. These two prices together, I was looking to create a range of support. And it was really right at this point that I took my entry. It was on 500 shares right here, 250. Then the second half was right here. So at that point, I set my stop. It was right at 446. I set my stop. As it moved up, I moved my stop up. I was a little leery because if it were to pull back and take me out and then run up without me, I'd be a little pissed, right? That happens to every one of us here, myself included. But you know what, here, I'm not trying to take a bigger loss than I need to. If this builds higher lows, I'll be happy. And that's what it did. So thankfully, it contained itself back above this peak and then ran up. So for as much as it ran up, it might look good to say, oh, you got out right near the highs, right at 535. That's not the goal. The goal isn't to be perfect with the exit as much as it is to be perfect and pristine with the entry. I wouldn't have felt nearly as confident, with this trade if I didn't get as good of an entry as I got. But then at that point, though, hey, if you get out and the stock keeps pumping up without you, you have to do your best to fight the urge, fight the emotion. You could always get back in on the trade if it presents that opportunity to you. And if you don't know what I mean by that, then you really got to go through our classes. Because, not every stock that is going up means that it's a screaming buy. It doesn't mean, oh, just jump in right now. I mean, hey, easy to look at Apple and say you could have just bought this morning and this thing could have just ran easily up for you, right? I told Daniel on our phone call, or on our coaching call just before, if trading was always this easy where, for every time a stock goes up and we just buy, it keeps going up and up and up and up perfect, We wouldn't be here. You, myself, we'd be out there on our own private islands. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, I'm sure. So with that, hey, if a stock keeps going up without you, you have to do your best to fight the urge and say, all right, well, maybe there is another level ahead I could take the trade from. Or, and this is the better or here, even though this did continue, there's likely other trades that are out there that are setting themselves up for a better opportunity. And I don't mean that in terms of like money made, but I'm saying that in terms of resistance breaking, a retest, maybe resistance flipping into support. So for as much as Apple moved up without me this morning, I had to do my best to, kind of move around, see what else was out there here. And the same was to be said if you missed this move or if the stock kept popping up without you after. It's like, all right, there's always other stocks out there for us to trade. And sometimes the best thing here is sometimes the best trade is no trade. I mean, hey, for all of our students here in chat right now, we know Apple's moving. We know this stock moved. But let me ask you, for Margaret, Leda, Charles, let's get some other students here too. You got Glenn, you got Mark R, you got Phil. There we go. I was working with him last week. You got Tim, you got Wendy, you got Wilson. You got a lot of us here. And with that, that's where I'll just say what's happening this week. For all of our students in chat right now, they'll be very quick to answer me here. What is happening this week? What's on deck this week? What's the big thing happening this week? Outside of like Apple, I guess, Apple and their conference, right? But Sam saying the Fed meeting, Laureen, Lee, Alex, all saying the Fed meeting, right? The Fed meeting. That's what every person here is waiting for. And every person outside of this trading room is waiting for. Because, you're going to see a lot of movement once the Fed decides interest rates and any other policies that they're deciding on. Then, of course, the main event, you got our best friend Jerome Powell on the mic at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. 2:30 Thursday afternoon, my apology. Thursday, you'll get Jerome Powell on the mic. And once he gives his remarks, then you'll see the market react accordingly. But because of the Fed, things are extremely slow. Why else is the market extremely slow, folks? Why is the market very slow this week? What's happened? Or what's not happening? What's not happening? That's the question there. Wilson and Sam and Leda all saying summer season. Absolutely. That is true. That's very true. And, that right now is more of like a tertiary thing to think about. It's good to think about, but I'm even having you kind of look elsewhere right now. The Fed meeting number one, because of the Fed, everything is slow. Summer's there, we find some really good days in the summer. So the whole thing of like sell in May and go away, it's good for swing. But in terms of day trading, I've learned over my years, summer is still a good time. I'll go into a story in just a bit. I've mentioned this story in the past, but now Roger saying it, and Alex, no more earnings really, no major earnings out there. There might be like one company out there. That's it. Hey, remember a few weeks ago when we had earnings season, we had 7 different reputable companies announcing at the close every day of the week. Well, with more action going around, it brings more eyeballs to the market. More eyeballs to the market provides more volume, and that provides more volatility. So with that, there's not as many earnings out there this week and next and the week after probably as well. This is a good week to be a student. It's a good week to be more of an observer, to sit back and conserve your bullets. Especially if you're on a lower account size, right? If you're only on a fixed number of trades, you got to make sure it's on a pretty exceptional setup. Actually, that was the first thing I wrote to you this morning, or one of the first things. Actually, it was the first thing. At 8:31 in the morning, I wrote this to you folks. I'm going to actually show this on a recording because, hey, it pays to be a member in our trading room and follow our commentary and chat all throughout the day, not even just making specific call outs like, oh, look at this iceberg at this price. It's also for some more general thought and mindset here, as a reminder, guys, it's a slow earnings week plus the Fed meeting. It's best to save our bullets for exceptional setups only. What does that mean? Exceptional setups only. Well, it means what we just covered. When a stock breaks over resistance and it flies off of it, we would like to think that initially resistance becomes support. And then not only that, but it's also the whole concept of hey, for a stock to retest resistance in a smaller time frame, in a smaller concentration, that's pretty bullish. So right here, when this moved up to $200 on Apple, let's cover this with Daniel too, just before on our coaching call. First test, best test. You should expect this to hold on the first test right here. And when I say hold, I don't necessarily mean hold it literally to the penny or else. I mean pop and drop. I mean, yes, it broke over this order, this level. There was over 1 million shares at this price earlier this morning. I'll bring up the level 4. Trust me, I know Fausto has this ready to go in his webinars this week and next week. He has been clamoring about this 200 level for so long. So actually, I may even have a good example from the NASDAQ book viewer. Right now, testing 204 right now. Let me just show you Bookmap here. Tossing a lot at you right now, but otherwise, right at 200 bones, you got 1.1 million share iceberg order here at 200. Well, the first test of that level, I expect to be a false breakout. I mean, hey, look at what happened to AISP. You know, it flew over that level pretty quickly. That's where you then need to, flip your script. Look for resistance to become support. So here, at least the first test, it held it, pop and drop. Next test, how long was this? This was at 1027. This time here was at 1017, basically. You're talking 10 minutes. 10 minutes worth of time there in between level tests. That's not too long of an amount of time. That really is not. This is Captain Hindsight comment. Easy to say, oh, the next test, it just broke out. There could have been one more test after. There could have been another little fight here, another higher low, and maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes after that, it makes the breakout. That happens, folks. But what I want you to focus on, though, is A, the first test here is the strongest test where we should expect to see resistance hold. Look what happened at 190, was it 198? First test, best test, right here. And then it still chopped around it afterwards. It broke over it. It broke under and over, so support building. And it made higher lows after. So, there is plenty of opportunity to take that trade. Just wait the first test. So here at 200, first test, best test. Next test, it ran, right? So pretty simple. The only part there is that if you missed it off the 200 breakout here, there's no pullback. That's what I wanted earlier and just never got it. So that's where you have to move on to a different stock if you missed it from there. Look what just happened at 204. Had an iceberg at 204. This may be the first test in which it broke it here, actually, coming up. Let me just take a look on the heat map here. Yep. This is the actual first break of this level right here. Pretty quickly did it pop over this line. Well, I'll tell you what, every stock eventually is going to find a hard top where this will eventually pull back really far. But I'd say for now, as long as this could at least contain itself over 204, then there's a good chance for this to make a higher high later on here even. So, it did break over 204 on the first test, we'll call it, right here. Hey, that's fine. I don't mind not taking the trade. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. But now, since this has moved off of this level a bit, okay, well, if it pulls back here, let's see if we can get resistance flipped. Last peak maybe right here, 204 iceberg here. Just food for thought. Since it broke over it, maybe on a pullback, you could see it try and hold. Now, if it slices right below the level and it doesn't go under over, then there's no entry whatsoever there. Chuck, there we go. I got out on that AISP finally there. There we go. Go back to that trade, of course. That was the one that we just had a moment ago. So, folks, we got to get through some emails. We got to get through a couple of emails at least that were sent in, and then any other questions that were sent in earlier from chat I'll try and get to before we finish up. I did have one question regarding Bitcoin. For any of my Bitcoiners out there, I'll show the graph in just a bit. But, yeah, this thing just keeps on trucking along, doesn't it? 450, $5. 5 got choppy here. Very choppy level here at 5. Not much volume filled off of 5 so far. You'd figure there should be as it's a whole number level. The fact that it was cutting through this line like a chainsaw, that's not really too good. So, again, this stock's up even more than Apple, obviously, and it's on a much lower float. So, I mentioned this in class a couple weeks ago, but where you have like the example of a stock that's exhausted, it's too tired. Well, it's not just going to go sideways forever. So if this fails to hold over 5 here, this thing could be cooked right now. This stock is definitely a pop and drop stock from the past. It's definitely a pop and drop stock. Look at this, back from just a month ago. Or a couple of months ago, a few months ago at that. But pop up, drop back down. It did that across a span of days. It could do that within 1 day here. This could just be a simple head fake right off of this level and drop right back down. So for as much as any stock keeps going up, that's why you don't want to get stuck holding onto a bag. Obviously, Apple could pull back too, and you could hold on to a losing bag there. But this is going to be a lot tougher to get out of just because of the liquidity over time. And otherwise, there's just way more people that know Apple. You're going to see Apple just trade more consistent volume every day. It's not going to be often that this stock is trading 69, 70 million shares on a day-to-day. You know what I mean? So if you've ever gone for a run, for my student Alex here in chat, he goes on his rucks on the weekend. You know, Alex, if you're going on your ruck, you got your nice little backpack attached to you there, you're running like 5 miles or so, probably pretty exhausted at the end of it all. What would happen if you ever tried breathing through a tiny little straw after you did your ruck, after you did your big run outside? Probably pass out, right? This stock right now has gone through its ruck, its run, and right now this thing is breathing through a tiny straw. It has small lungs, however you want to, describe it. If it's not going to make that higher high and continue, then definitely watch out. So I think that was a good exit by Andrea, Chuck, myself, and a bunch of us here in chat. All right, cool. So let's get to an email question that came in here just before. This one, probably pretty simple, actually. So from Irving, I sent this just earlier. Question: in Think or Swim, is the trade flash panel information useful with CTU style of daily trade analysis? The trade flash panel. I am not familiar with that there, Irving, but I definitely know that our students are, as well as maybe Rich, my colleague is. I'm looking it up right now, doing a quick little flash right here. Trade flash scanner on Thinkorswim. How about this? Let's try and pull this up here, Irving. Oh, okay, this. Oh, is this for UOA? Is this for unusual options activity? Nah, it doesn't. Oh, yeah, it might look like it. I'll have to do a little bit more looking myself, Irving. As far as trade flash. So this has to be for unusually large trades. Certainly the examples here look like it's for options. And hopefully as well, it could be for big block, like just stock transactions. See the big, transactions from time and sales here. I'm talking like the 100,000 share lot orders though. So, if anyone has experience with that trade flash program, oops, that's not it. With that trade flash program just before, just let Irving know there at least. Alex on his run right there, he said, in 109-degree temperature, he'd die. I mean, the ruck alone is hard, Alex, and, trying to breathe through that tiny straw. So if anyone has any insight just on this trade flash thing for Irving, let us know on that. But from my eye here, it looks like it's more for like UOA, unusual options activity. If you're not as familiar with that, I'd say it's best to just not focus on it. Just keep it super simple with CTU strategy and looking out for the orders on level 3 and level 4. But all right, there we go. So nice little drop right there. Let's actually show really quickly if I can. Give me a quick second here. I took a picture of this on Apple earlier. It just goes to show why it's so important to follow, not just level 4 if you got it. If you got level 4, perfect. That's the creme de la creme. So if you got Thinkorswim version of Bookmap, if you got the main version of Bookmap, stick with it. You're in good hands. You're in the best hands. But I actually took this picture earlier. It goes to show at least, on level 3, the NASDAQ book viewer. Oops, it's not going to let me scroll as well. But you can see down at the bottom, this was at $200. Look here, you got nearly $500,000 right from the NASDAQ ECN book alone. So, Fausto brought this up in class recently where, the NASDAQ is the most liquid. It's the most popular ECN and exchange out there across them all. But definitely more like within the last 10 years, I'd say you've had a lot more volume being exchanged through the ARCA book and also other ECNs, the Direct Edge /EDGX it's called. So really at this point, it's probably a little bit more than 50% of the volume is routed through NASDAQ. And then the other remaining parts is divvied up between all of the other, exchanges and ECNs. There's a lot. So ARCA book is pretty big, EDGX is pretty big, but then you got all these tinier exchanges and ECNs out there. So this is where I'll tell you, what was there, 1.1 million shares out there earlier at $200? That's the example that we had, right? There was 1.1 million in total there. Yeah, when you have 400,000+ shares, nearly 500,000 from NASDAQ book viewer, you still know where your iceberg order is, right? like, yeah, this makes up maybe like less than half. Okay, this is still clearly by far your largest order size. It's clearly by far your largest price where you have the most number of orders there, like nearly 6,000 total orders being run through the NASDAQ alone. So again, I can't stress this enough. If you have level 4, perfect. If you don't have level 4, well, if you have Think or Swim, that would be an alternative way to get it for a much lower cost. But if you don't have Think or Swim, then you need to get level 3. Like, that's a necessity then. So if you're on TradeStation, you got the Matrix. If you don't have TradeStation, then we do advocate for you to get the NASDAQ book viewer. And you were able to see this order right here is all from the morning. All throughout the market open, this order is out there. Honestly, this order's been out there for weeks. Fausto's been talking about this for quite some time now. So, see? This is just yesterday. 1.09 million shares out there. Yesterday, this was at that 200 level. So, yeah, I'd say that's your major resistance. Once it broke over it, this thing is flying Brian. So, all right, folks. Hey, let's get to Bitcoin actually really quickly. I did have an email that came in just yesterday, actually, just asking me to go over it. So, give me a quick moment here. I'm going to launch Bitcoin. Let me ask, anyone here on YouTube interested in Bitcoin? Anyone here inside our live trading room interested in Bitcoin or crypto altogether? Definitely let me know. I ask knowing the answer. We probably have like maybe a third, maybe a quarter of us in total in our trading room interested in it. They own it. They either are trading Bitcoin itself or they're trading stocks like Coinbase. They're trading stocks like Robinhood. And they're trading the miners out there. One of the miners that's been doing really well is this one here, Irene, I-R-E-N. Not Eileen. We've learned that. Not like the song Come On Eileen. It's Irene. So with that, ended up making a good little push this morning, this stock. But it's just to say, like, what's up with Bitcoin? What's going on with that? I thought that we were in the bull market. Are we going to get a higher high? Are we going to 100,000? Yes. The answer to that is yes. But it's not going to be right away. Actually, if you recall back from late April when the whole Bitcoin halving event happened, I said, let's wait 6 to 8 weeks. I think you're going to see a nice move within 6 to 8 weeks time at that point. And that was like April 20th around here. We broke a little down at first, then popped right back up. So we haven't even broken a new all-time high since then. We have plenty of time to see it happen. Basically, I think that this bull market will last until the end of this year, maybe the very beginning of next. I'd probably be more on the earlier side than later, at least. So, there's plenty of time for all-time highs. I think that we'll get over 100,000, well over 100,000. But as far as this drop today, hey, big old red candle here today, at least. So before we get that higher high, what's going to happen first? Obviously, we're pulling back right now. If we try and find a very local support level, like a very local support level, possibly you could look at this dating back to like the end of May, held higher lows. I think that we'll go a little bit lower though. Let me flip this into a weekly. Also delete my lines here, all my crap. Okay, so let's see if I can plot this here. What do we got? That looks pretty healthy to me. We had a really strong top from back in 21, basically right around 60,000, 59,000 and change. And you can go higher because technically like the real top you could say is around here. Well, if we focus on that top, it broke below it here. So we're underneath that point already. So what's the next one ahead? This looks pretty good because it bottomed out right around 61, 60-ish. You could say 59 and change, just loosely speaking, where that line previously was. So if we continue to pull back, it wouldn't shock me if we get closer to this again. As long as we hold a higher low, then that's fine by me. So at least as far as how the rest of the stocks that we trade react, well, clearly here today, Irene is making a move completely against the grain. It's completely swimming upstream as Bitcoin has been dropping today. So, on the flip side, we'll see Bitcoin take off and the miners not react as strong, right? So we've been mentioning there is big difference between the mining stocks and Bitcoin themselves. They own Bitcoin, but you're not going to see a perfect move just because Bitcoin goes up. You'd like to see a sympathetic move, like a sympathy play. But you're going to have better correlation with Bitcoin when it comes to Robinhood and also when it comes to Coinbase itself, those two stocks. Those are the two stocks I'd say will have better correlation. Then, of course, there is the ETF. There's the ETF in particular. IBIT is like the heaviest volume one, we'll basically say. That's the BlackRock ETF. So this will have the best correlation to Bitcoin itself. So if you don't want to track Bitcoin, you don't know where the charts are for that, just look up IBIT. Just look up IBIT. This will be your guide. If you want to know what Bitcoin's up to, this is the direction in which Bitcoin is moving in, right? That's basically it. So, as far as at least seeing actual Bitcoin, as long as we hold higher lows from back in the beginning of May, we're in a good position still. It's really it. Over time, I'm sure that we'll continue to break out here. 72,000 looks pretty strong as resistance, held pretty nicely back from the end of March, really well here. So as long as we get that next test coming up over time, hopefully sooner than later at least, that'll make for an easier breakout, then full steam ahead. Alex saying cores as well, CORZ, yeah, it's also been a pretty good one, right? Breaking all-time highs. Oh, whoops, sorry, 1 second. There we go, cores here, nice mining stock. It took off back from the end of last month, breaking all-time highs there. All right, so really quick, folks, if you have any other questions for me here in chat, let me know. I ran through email here, actually. A couple of emails that get sent in like, hey, Josh, I don't have any questions this week. I'll be sure to join you next week. No problem. And also, might I say, I'll definitely chatter on the side, but actually, my condolences to Roseanne here in our chat board. My heart goes out to you there. And we'll definitely talk coming up soon. And hey, if there's any other questions, folks, that you got from me here in chat, definitely let me know. We'll head back to AISP. And back to the Apple trades. Those were the two that we were focused on this morning. I can't stress enough. This was one of the slowest trading days of the entire year, and that's including what happened with Apple and AISP. If we didn't have those two stocks, I've been working for Fausto for nearly 10 years now. I've been saying that for a year. October 6th, I think it is. But basically, if it wasn't for Apple today and AISP, this would have been probably a top 10 slowest morning that I've ever encountered. Why I say that to you is because I don't want you to overshoot when you don't need to. It's best to conserve our bullets, like I said previously. It's best to, some days are just days where you don't need to take a trade and you don't want to take a trade. You say, all right, nothing else is really looking good here. I was working with my student just earlier, and he was kind of asking more on psychology and mindset, fighting the urge of emotions and taking the trade and this and that. That's a pretty extensive conversation I would need to take the time to have with all of us in a group class. In phase 2, I do that. Setting stops and building disciplined trader psychology. That's the exact class I teach it in. But it's just to say at least that this is a one-person race. It's you versus yourself, right? And it's not just like the market's closing permanently after today. We got tomorrow. Hell, we got this afternoon. There might be a stock that is an exceptional setup later on today that you feel much better about. And you missed out on this morning's moves on AISP and Apple. And you might look at this one coming up later on today, and it's right there for the taking. So, this is a one-person race, you versus yourself, but you don't need to take any trade at any point in time. If you see people in the trading room, like, look, I made my day's pay, look at me, look, hey, root them on, cheerlead them on, good for them. It's a one-person race. At the end of the day, they don't pay my bills, they don't put dinner on my plate. I have to do my best to say, is this trade a good trade for me as a trader, not anyone else? So as a newly enrolled student, we want you to be following stocks that have good spreads, have good order books like this here. This actually was a pretty good stock, a little fast moving still, but good order book. Well, aside from that, is the stock setting itself up for a breakout? Is the stock approaching a significant point of resistance or support that you took the time to chart? If the answer is no, if you're trying to pull your hair out looking for that big level, if you're rushing to try and figure out where the level is before it takes off of that, guys, there's another trade. There's going to be another day to trade. Another week to trade. This is not a good week to be trading. There's going to be another week to trade next week, right? There's going to be another season to trade. Summer is not always the best season to be trading. So, there's just, times where we have to yank our own leash a bit and be like, listen, right now it's not the best time. It's not the best trade. And sometimes what you need to do is just step away from your desk for 30, 45 minutes. Hey, that's the best thing to do to take emotion away, is to take yourself away from it. I mean, hey, right now we're basically in summer months right now. It's like 109 degrees out, speaking of Alex, here in Florida. Well, maybe if I had a bad morning, bad day, it's best to go for that ruck, go for that run, and then come back likely with a different mindset. Some time's passed by, you just maybe blew off some steam. It's always, you feel better about yourself after working out, whatever it might be, even if you're not going for a run. Step outside, go in your garden, just watch over things, play with your pet, whatever it might be. But that's the best thing to do otherwise. Take yourself out of the equation. Brad in and out on that AISP took his money at least finally. There you go, Brad. Brad had like a really good entry price. So he was holding on, looking for that higher high. It pulled back. He got out. It was a good exit from Brad right there. Andrea says, me also, one of the few I did not trade before 11 o'clock. Andrea, were you referring to the AISP or the Apple right there? I mean, both. Both, honestly, freaking flying up. I'll tell you really quick with Apple, I was focused on this more with option calls, and this didn't make the move I wanted it to make. Basically this morning, once it broke resistance, meaning these three lines here I had plotted, these three lines, I was looking for those three lines to become support. Like on a pullback here, oh my God, I was like chomping at the bit, like please fall into this range here. It's literally what happened to AISP just before at my 450, 460. Literally the same thing happened. I just got it here and I didn't get it on Apple. Okay, well, I was going to look to try and take some options on this because obviously given the price of the stock. So let me at least just show you as far as the options go. The only thing with options that you got to stay away from really, well, not the only, but one of the more important things to stay away from is contracts that have very, very high implied volatility. So thankfully Apple, with the news that came out, it's a little bit more volatile than usual, but it's actually a better stock to trade the options on compared to Tesla, compared to, NVIDIA, definitely, compared to freaking, obviously, some of the others. We'll just talk like GameStop. Even if you think the cheaper the stock is, the cheaper the contract, and that could be good for you, that doesn't mean the volatility is lower. It's actually higher. So stocks like PLTR, not always the best trade. AFRM had news out this morning with Apple, and I was looking at the options on that. Holy smokes, like the implied volatility was like 90%. So I had to stay away from that. I was really trying to focus in on the Apple trade, buckle in and dial in on the Apple trade here. Just unfortunately, this didn't make that pullback. I would have wanted to have grabbed like 195 calls and obviously kept going up. Now, really quick though, I will say by the time this ended up breaking 200, when it rebroke 200 right here, this could have been a very viable opportunity to buy. Yes, it's a Captain Hindsight comment. I did not take this trade myself, but in terms of first test, best test, right here, then the more times it could press that level in a smaller time frame, that's a pretty good sign. So if someone did decide to take Apple 200 calls right here on the next test, obviously you got what you wanted, but how well could you have done on that trade? Like based off the timing of that breakout, what happened? Was it 10:28 in the morning? So basically for the Apple 200 calls for this Friday, June 14th, they were basically at $2.20 per contract. I'll just show I'm going to show the whole chart. Give me a sec here. There we go. Basically, you're able to get in like kind of, oops, sorry about that. One more time. Let's do this. There we go. Basically right there. Once Apple broke $200, this broke the top here. You were able to get in likely around $2.20, $2.30 on the breakout. Obviously, it ran up pretty nicely, but it goes to show, I understand why some people look forward to options trading because look at the profit potential. This moved up towards basically $5 within 30 minutes, a little over 30 minutes time this is. So 100% move in 30 minutes sounds really good to me. It also looks really good to me. This happened in hindsight. We know that this ran, so the profit potential is there. But for newer students of CTU, unless if you already have great experience trading puts and calls and you're consistently making money on them every day, and if you are, perfect, good. I'm not speaking to you, right? You're a step ahead. But if you're not that person, then I would want you to be trading stocks first. It's the underlying movement of the stock that will affect the premium, the put or the call that you're looking at. But then otherwise, even though Apple here kind of is on the lower side of implied volatility, that's where if you're trying to tailor our strategy towards options, it's not 100%. Like, yeah, this looked good. It was very, very good correlation. But let's say if you jump into an options trade and you set a stop in accordance to where the level is on a stock, I've gotten stopped out so many times on the option before the stock even broke below the big level I'm looking at here. It's because the option I was looking at had much higher implied volatility. That's likely the reason. Either that or, what was it, like delta, probably much lower, or theta, whatever it is, the Greeks. So it's just to say, at least with higher implied volatility, you're going to have bigger shakes, at times bigger spreads on the option book, but because of the shakes, you're more likely to get stopped out, where if you were trading the regular stock, that stock may still be holding that level that you're looking at. So that's where basically, case in point, Apple could have been a great options trade today, mainly because it wasn't too volatile. The implied volatility wasn't too high. Ron says, I'm not smart enough to trade options. Ron, I'm not smart enough to trade options. I'm probably not smart enough to be trading stocks. I'm not the smartest tool, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, the brightest bulb of the bunch. I could probably just talk well. At that, I need a lot of water to talk well. But it's just to say that as long as you, and it's a general sentiment, but as long as you are process-oriented, meaning you're not focused on the goal and that's it, you're focused on the step-by-step process involved, and you're making sure you're following each step, you're going to make money. With that, you're going to be more selective. You're not going to be as aggressive if you're, really that process focused, right? So it takes time to become process oriented, really. And that's a human issue. It's not a trading issue, folks. I mean, there are people that join CTU that are very structured like that outside of trading in their own lives, and it reflects within their trading. Now, if you're a slob, if you're a mess, if you wake up out of bed at 9:28 and then just start trading at 9:30 and you have no prep work, you have no process, you're like flying by the edge of your seat type of person, you probably aren't going to do too well consistently. You might make money here or there. You might hit it big on a trade or a couple of trades. But, if you expect lightning to keep striking, it's tough to do. So that's where I'd say otherwise, it's a matter of being process oriented as far as trading goes. It's like I just put together a whole bunch of furniture outside for my balcony here. It's actually really nice now. I can bring my laptop out there, do my coaching calls out there now, and really cool. Well, over this past weekend, I spent all time building this damn furniture. I got it from IKEA, Wayfair, and you got to build it yourself. So if I didn't follow that step-by-step instruction book, I don't think I'd be building the best product. I might set it up. It might look complete, but maybe my fat ass sits down on that chair and it breaks within 1 second. You don't know, right? And I'm being self-deprecating, of course, by saying that. But it's just to say, you got to make sure you follow the instructions, right? Hey, really quick before we finish up here, this is the most important instruction when it comes to trading. And this, truthfully, from my eye, I know is the easiest part of this process for every one of us here to follow. When you get into a trade, when you jump in and it says order filled on TradeStation, what's immediately the first thing that you're doing? Once you're actually in the trade, once you're in your car, you're in your driveway, you're in your car, you close the car door, what's the immediate thing that you're doing? Better not be starting the car. Better be putting that seatbelt on. Better be putting that stop in, right? So all of us were so quick to answer that question here. Wilson, Luis, Leda, Lee, Laureen. Got the L's tripping me up right now. Leda, you too, geez. All right. I got Yehuda, you got Brian, you got all of us here in chat right now just saying that. Exactly. You're all very quick to answer that because you've gone through the motions and it's just a built-in part of your process at this point, right? It's built in. The more that you hear about it, the more that you're in class talking about it and you're applying it yourself, obviously, it becomes second nature, right? Now, this is all tying back to options like Ron was saying because he was like, I'm not too smart to trade options. That's not the point. The point is you got to be following the instruction book step by step by step. You know what? There is more than one step. There's more than two steps involved. But it's not like there's a million. It's not like there's a 20-page panel of instructions you got to go through. It's really a matter of A, what's the trend? B, where is there a big level? Or where are your big levels? There's more than just one. But otherwise then, is the stock breaking through a big level on the way up? Look what's happening here at this 204. Look at this. It's trying here. Well, if this is such a big level, and if the bulls are really still in control of this, then there's not going to be like much games being played here then, right? We're either going to get what we want or we don't get what we want. So that's where I always say to you, when a stock breaks through a big level and you jump in, like when you take the trade, basically case in point, you got to make sure you see the stock make a decisive move, a big move shortly after. And the longer it takes for that stock to make that big move in your direction, it's more bound to make a big move not in your direction, right? We were saying this here at $5, we were saying like, oh, this thing's so choppy. It's cutting through it like a chainsaw, we were saying. That's not good. Like, yeah, this thing needed to make a higher high at this point. Otherwise, it's only going to go one other direction. The way I like to phrase it, I'm kind of like blunt with this. And it's just to kind of like, basically hit you upside the back of the head and make you realize, folks, the stocks that we trade, they go up and down. The charts that we read go from left to right. It's not like this stock is doing a triple backflip, double axle, and landing somewhere else. This is either going to make a higher high or it's going to make a lower low. As simple as that. We just got to keep trading as simple as that, folks. So with that, we're going to finish up at least right here for all of our students and members inside our live trading room. We're going to head right back to our normal agenda here with making call outs, scanning the market, and likely at 2:30 being back on our broadcast here just for our afternoon meeting, building up our watch list for the close. Of course, you could always find me inside our live trading room. Just send me over a quick private chat if you're Wilson, Grant, Ron, Leda, Lee, all of our students here right now. I just dropped my email address there as well for our new trial members just joining us this week. There you go. You got John and Warren right now in YouTube chat as well. I'll tell you what, Rich, if you're in on YouTube right now, Rich, just do me a favor. Just type my email address out there if you can. I can't do that right now on our new streaming platform. We just got this like new high-end, fancy, high-tech platform here. So, probably by next week, we'll be in full swing with it. We'll be good to go. But, just drop my email address there and Rich in the YouTube chat there, josh@ctutrading.com. And make sure to follow us at CyberTradingU. You see there on the top right there of our platform, at CyberTradingU. If you're new to our streams or platforms alike, make sure to hit the red follow or subscribe button right there. We stream this workshop each and every Tuesday morning. We go live each and every day throughout the week. And then otherwise, hey, if you're interested in joining our live trading room, scan that QR code popping up right there as well. And we look forward to having you just inside our live trading room coming up soon, folks.